The year 1949 marked a profound shift in global geopolitics. Mao Zedong proclaimed the People's Republic of China, altering East Asia's landscape. The Chinese Communist Party's victory ended a brutal civil war. The defeated nationalist government retreated to Taiwan. The U.S., entrenched in the Cold War, recognized the nationalists in Taipei, sowing mistrust with Beijing. The Korean War in 1950 internationalized these tensions. North Korea's invasion of South Korea prompted a UN response. Led by the U.S. as UN forces neared China's border, Beijing intervened, leading to a bloody stalemate. The war solidified American views of China as aggressive and expansionist. For China, the conflict reinforced its view of the U.S. as imperialist. The mid-1950s saw further escalation over Taiwan. The first Taiwan Strait crisis began in 1954. The U.S. signed a mutual defense treaty with the nationalist government. The Eisenhower administration even threatened nuclear attack to deter a PRC invasion. China eventually agreed to negotiations, but Taiwan remained a flashpoint. These early years were marked by ideological opposition and military confrontation. The U.S. aimed to contain communism, while China focused on consolidating its revolution. This period laid a difficult foundation for U.S.-China relations. The late 1960s brought significant shifts in global power. The Sino-Soviet split created an unexpected opening for U.S.-China engagement. In 1971, China's ping-pong team invited the U.S. team, signaling a thaw. U.S. National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger secretly visited Beijing in July 1971. The UN recognized the PRC, transferring China's Security Council seat from Taiwan. President Nixon's historic visit to China in February 1972 reshaped U.S.-China relations. Nixon met with Chairman Mao and Premier Zhou Enlai. The Shanghai Communique acknowledged differences and stated the U.S. acknowledges one China. Nixon's visit initiated cautious engagement and strategic alignment against the Soviet Union. It demonstrated that ideological adversaries could find common ground. For the U.S., it opened a new diplomatic front. For China, it marked a return to the global stage. The visit laid the foundation for future cooperation and complexities. The era of estrangement began to give way to one of cautious engagement. The visit was a stunning reversal of decades of U.S. policy. It fundamentally reshaped the Cold War landscape. The week that changed the world laid the foundation for future cooperation. The momentum from Nixon's visit continued through the 1970s. Full diplomatic normalization was achieved under President Jimmy Carter in 1979. The U.S. derecognized Taiwan as the official government of China. Washington acknowledged the PRC's One China principle. Congress passed the Taiwan Relations Act, allowing unofficial relations and defensive arms sales. The 1980s saw further evolution under President Ronald Reagan. Reagan issued the 6 assurances to Taiwan, pledging not to end arms sales. The U.S. and PRC signed a third joint communique, reaffirming the One China policy. Economic interactions began to grow as China embarked on its reform and opening up policy. The U.S. saw opportunities in China's evolving economic landscape. Strategic considerations related to the Soviet Union drove the relationship. Ideological differences and human rights concerns persisted. The 1980s represented deepening engagement with potential fault lines. The relationship was complex, balancing strategic interests and ideological differences. The U.S. permitted Beijing to purchase U.S. military equipment in 1984. The period set the stage for future challenges. The relationship remained driven by strategic considerations. The 1980s laid the groundwork for future complexities. The trajectory of U.S.-China relations faced a severe setback in June 1989. Pro-democracy demonstrations in Tiananmen Square were brutally suppressed. The crackdown resulted in significant loss of life. The Tiananmen Square massacre sent shockwaves globally. The U.S., under President George H.W. Bush, imposed sanctions. High-level official contacts were frozen. The massacre created a deep dilemma for the U.S. policymakers who were wary of derailing the relationship. The incident highlighted the tension between U.S. values and strategic interests. The immediate aftermath saw a chilling of relations. The Bush administration sought to maintain communication. The Clinton administration adopted constructive engagement. Economic engagement aimed to encourage political liberalization. Human rights remained a persistent point of friction. The U.S. linked China's trade status to its human rights record. The 1990s were a decade of recalibration. The U.S. and China balanced economic opportunities with political disagreements. The relationship navigated complex challenges under the shadow of Tiananmen. The turn of the millennium marked a deepening of U.S.-China economic ties. In 2000, President Clinton signed the U.S.-China Relations Act, granting PNTR. China's accession to the WTO in 2001 integrated it into the global trading system. U.S.-China trade surged, reaching $231 billion by 2004. China became a manufacturing powerhouse. The U.S. trade deficit with China grew, raising concerns about job losses. Intellectual property theft and unfair trade practices became contentious issues. Strategic and military tensions occasionally flared. In 2001, a U.S. surveillance plane collided with a Chinese fighter jet. The Hainan Island incident sparked a diplomatic standoff. The U.S. sought to define China's role in the global order. In 2005, Deputy Secretary of State Robert Zuellick called on China to be a responsible stakeholder. By 2008, China became the largest foreign holder of U.S. debt. Financial interdependence added complexity to the relationship. The economic embrace brought significant frictions. The U.S. aimed to manage strategic competition. The relationship was marked by economic opportunities and strategic tensions. The period set the stage for future challenges. The U.S. and China navigated a complex and vital bilateral relationship. The relationship was crucial for global stability. The economic embrace was not without its challenges. The period highlighted the intricate dynamics of U.S.-China relations. The Obama administration inherited a central U.S.-China relationship. By 2010, China became the world's second-largest economy. The Obama administration sought cooperation on transnational issues. The pivot to Asia strategy aimed to counter China's growing influence. Tensions flared in the South China Sea over territorial claims. The U.S. conducted freedom of navigation operations. Despite tensions, there were instances of cooperation. In 2014, Obama and Xi issued a joint announcement on climate change. The agreement was a step towards the Paris Agreement. Cyber espionage remained contentious. In 2014, the U.S. indicted Chinese military hackers. The relationship was marked by cooperation and competition. The U.S. aimed to manage areas of disagreement. The period was defined by complex interplay. The relationship navigated evolving roles on the world stage. The U.S. sought to balance cooperation and competition. The period highlighted the multifaceted nature of U.S.-China relations. The Trump administration marked a departure in U.S.-China policy. Initial interactions were amicable, but the tone soon shifted. The Trump administration identified China's trade practices as a threat. A full-blown trade war ensued, with tariffs on Chinese imports. The conflict escalated, creating uncertainty in global markets. A Phase 1 trade deal was signed in 2020, but many issues remained unresolved. The administration took strong actions against Chinese tech companies. Huawei was effectively banned from doing business with U.S. companies. The U.S. adopted a tougher stance on Hong Kong. Relations deteriorated further during the COVID-19 pandemic. The U.S. blamed China for the global outbreak. The U.S. ordered the closure of the Chinese consulate in Houston. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo declared the policy of engagement with China had failed. The relationship was framed as an ideological struggle. The period marked a significant rhetorical and policy shift. The relationship was characterized by strategic competition. The Trump era highlighted the deepening rivalry. The Biden administration maintained the Trump-era tariffs. The approach emphasized investing in U.S. strength, aligning with allies, and competing with China. The first high-level meeting in 2021 revealed deep disagreements. Human rights concerns remained prominent. The administration imposed a diplomatic boycott of the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. Sanctions were applied to Chinese officials over actions in Hong Kong and Xinjiang. The administration stressed the need for guardrails to manage competition. Several incidents highlighted persistent tensions. In 2023, the U.S. shot down a suspected Chinese surveillance balloon. The issue of Taiwan remained a critical flashpoint. The administration implemented restrictions on China's access to advanced semiconductor technology. Efforts were made to find common ground. The APEC summit in 2023 saw Biden and Xi agree to resume military communication. The relationship was marked by competition and cautious cooperation. The period highlighted the complexities of U.S.-China relations. As of May 2025, The U.S.-China relationship remains complex. Efforts to stabilize ties have yielded modest results. Diplomatic overtures occurred against a backdrop of strategic mistrust. The year 2024 saw continued high-level engagement and fresh sources of friction. President Biden imposed new tariffs on Chinese green technology products. The potential for further escalation remains significant. The relationship is characterized by managed strategic competition. Fundamental disagreements persist over trade, technology, human rights, and Taiwan. The relationship is a roller coaster of tension and cooperation. The future trajectory depends on domestic and geopolitical factors. The relationship will continue to shape international peace and economic prosperity. The U.S.-China relationship is one of the most consequential in the world. The path forward will be marked by intense rivalry and cautious cooperation.